Hey everyone, Pastor Rick here. I'm so glad that you are diving into week 2 with us as we continue our trek through this series, Regifting. Our tagline for the series is this: you have to get Jesus in order to give Jesus. And what we're trying to do is this: we're just trying to better see Jesus, better understand Jesus so that we can be like Jesus. This is what we want. This is our big idea. This is our bullseye. This is the thing that we're aiming at together. We want to be more like Jesus so that when people are around us, when people experience us, when people kind of get what we're like, they get a glimpse of what Jesus is like, that we make it easier for other people to see Jesus. That's where our series thesis comes from. Hey, we're the wrapping paper that people have to get through to get to Jesus. And last week we just focused on this: kind of sit and be with Jesus. Just sit and be with Jesus first. There's lots of stuff to do. There's lots of important things to do. There's real obedience. There's real good works that Jesus has called us to. But let's start with this. Let's let this be our default setting. Just sit with Jesus. I want you to talk about that a little bit with your group. Let them know, what has it been like in the past week as you focused on that? That's a bit of a recap of last week. Before we jump into this week, let me pivot and talk about some of the things that we need to do or we want to do. And I want to talk about something that our church is trying to do together so that we can model Jesus and bring the love of Jesus to our community. A number of years ago, maybe you know about this, it could be new information, that's fine. A number of years ago, even actually before I got here, our church conducted something called the Outside the Walls Report. It was a survey, a massive survey of this community, meeting with community leaders, meeting with just residents of the community, surveying lots of people, trying to find out what the big needs are in the city of Rochester. And there were a number of needs. Some needs we just don't have the ability to contribute to the solution. One of those is affordable housing. I don't know how our church can contribute to solving that problem. But there was one issue that came up over and over again. It was considered one of the top needs in this community. It's activities for families that are safe and affordable. And the idea was Rochester it's a working community, but it's not really a fun community. And we thought, well, we as a church, we can do something about that. We can contribute to that. And so we came up with something called Ridgefest, and it's kind of a grand experiment. And it's, hey, let's create a safe, fun, and totally free, exciting, fun event for families in this community, for people in this community, and they can come to our church, and this is our hope. I cannot guarantee success on this. It's an experiment, but this is our hope. This is what we're going for, is that we are great hosts. We are kind, we are welcoming, and we model joy and all the things, right? And then they come, they have a great experience, and they are around the people of Autumn Ridge. They're on the campus of Autumn Ridge. They get to come inside the building, and they imagine, hey, maybe coming here for a weekend service or for a kids ministry activity or something else, or for Financial Peace University or for Celebrate Recovery, this is the kind of place I could see myself with. If I was going to go to a church, this is the kind of church that I would go to. It's a bridge building endeavor with our community. And so it's the kind of thing that takes a lot of effort. It's pretty big. It's a big experiment, and we have it coming up in just a few weeks, and I want you to be a part of it. This is the kind of thing we cannot do on our own, but even if we could, we wouldn't want to do it without you. Now listen, I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but this is just me talking from my heart. I'm looking for a few more people to join the team. We need a few more people to join the team. And I'm asking you, both individually and collectively, as a small group, would your small group be willing to join us on that Saturday, maybe hosting a game, maybe working in the petting zoo, maybe hosting a trunk or treat as a way of just being kind and hospitable and loving and meeting a real identified need in this community as a way of trying to build a bridge to helping people better see Jesus and wanting to come and be around this church a little bit more so they can more clearly hear the gospel. If that hits you where you live, if you're interested in that, and if you're saying to me, Rick, listen, I've got enough time, I've got enough energy, I've got enough margin to be a part of that, and that lines up with my heart. I would love to be a part of helping people better see Jesus, then would you sign up for Ridgefest right now? There's going to be a training for volunteers on October 13th, and so you have a chance to sign up and not miss out on that. It's just us. It's not the only way. It's just us trying to wrap ourselves up with Jesus' likeness and to represent him to our community. Now, I got that out of the way. I want you guys to talk about that, but let's pivot to what we talked about in this weekend's message. We looked at really a challenging passage where Jesus is talking about, hey, I'm going to suffer. People are going to do me wrong. I'm going to go to the cross. And Peter had enough. And I want to emphasize this in case we didn't make it clear this weekend. This wasn't an all of the sudden thing where Jesus said, hey, by the way, I'm going to be crucified, and Peter was caught off guard, and so he corrects Jesus. The way the passage reads, Jesus had been talking about this over and over and over again, and Peter had enough of it. He wasn't going to take it anymore, and he got in Jesus' face, he pulled him aside, and it says he rebuked him. Now, could you imagine being so out of sorts with Jesus that you're just going to rebuke him to his face in front of everybody else? Well, that's what was going on. And the reason is this, is that Jesus and the way of Jesus was different than what Peter expected. Peter expected for it to be a little bit more comfortable. He expected for it to be a little bit more safe. He expected for it to be a little bit more successful. And in many ways, I think those of us who live and have grown up here in the United States of America, we can relate to that. We have a culture that is used to thriving, is used to comfort, is used to innovation, is used to success. And it's so easy for us. It's so easy for us to evaluate Jesus through the lens of our culture instead of evaluating our culture through the lens of Jesus. It's so easy to evaluate Jesus through the lens of our cultural experiences instead of the other way around. Now, I'm not knocking our country. I love our country. But what it is there's some things about our culture that can sometimes get in the way of really seeing Jesus and following in the way of Jesus. And part of following the way of Jesus is, I will suffer for you on purpose. I will sacrifice for you on purpose. I am willing to be done wrong for your good. That's a challenging thing, and that challenged Peter. One of the things that I'm noticing right now from a lot of really intelligent, I think good-hearted Christian leaders out there is they're peddling a message of fear. They're coming to get us, and we kind of have to be on guard. But following the way of Jesus isn't being on guard. Following the way of Jesus is, you know what? Sometimes people are going to react hostily to the message of the gospel. Sometimes people are going to react inappropriately to the message of the gospel. Sometimes people are going to mistreat me because of my alignment with Jesus. But I'm ready to follow Jesus. I'm ready to take up my cross and be like Jesus. Don't want to suffer. Don't want things to be difficult. Don't want things to be unsuccessful. I don't want things to be hard. And I don't even want to have to sacrifice. But you know what? That's how Jesus loved me. And I find joy in loving others the way that Jesus has loved me. That's part of the gospel, and that's part of what it means to be fully devoted, a fully devoted follower of Jesus. I want to encourage you guys to talk about that, dig into that, talk about the things that make you afraid of that, talk about the things that make you hesitant to embrace that. Again, we're not going looking for trouble, we're not looking for heartache, we're not looking for difficulty. But if we're going to love others in the way that Jesus has loved us, if we're going to wrap ourselves up in wrapping paper that looks like Jesus, we're going to say, you know what, I'm willing to serve. I'm willing to sacrifice. And when the moment comes, if it's required, if I have to take on pain in order for others to see Jesus, I'm willing to do that too. What do you think? Are you in? I hope you have a great conversation, and we'll see you next week.